Welcome everyone to Whimsy Woven Stories. Here, we explore gripping tales of real-life twists. Join our storytelling community.
Hey everyone. Before we get started, I need your little help to beat the YouTube algorithm. Please subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and drop your city name in the comments to let us know where you're watching from. Now let's continue the story. I met Avery when she was just 3 months old. Her mother, Penelope, and I had been seeing each other casually for a few months when she finally told me she had a daughter from a previous relationship. She seemed nervous, like she expected me to back out the moment I heard the word single mother. She told me the father wanted nothing to do with them. Hadn't even seen Avery once. I didn't run. I didn't hesitate. Something about Penelope's honesty, the way she looked. When she talked about her daughter, it moved something in me. And the first time I held Avery, she was fussy and warm and impossibly small. I was hooked. By the time Avery was 2, Penelope and I were married. I used to call her Penelope. Then, Penelope, we joked that I only used her full name when I was trying to be fancy or make her laugh. It worked. She'd roll her eyes and smile like she didn't want to. And that smile made everything worth it. When Avery was 5, I legally adopted her. I still remember the court date, the little matching dress she wore, the way she squeezed my hand. She didn't fully understand what was happening, but she knew it was important. Now here is something I need to tell before you guys judge me. I am sterile, and I cannot have kids of my own. So for me, Avery was a gift from God. And I remember God. I remember the first time she called me Dad. We were driving home from preschool, some art project glittering in her lap, and she was telling me about how her friend Grace got a puppy. There was a quiet stretch of road, and she suddenly said, "Can I have a dog too, please, Dad?" I had to pull the car over. It hit me like a flood. I just sat there with my hands on the wheel, blinking hard. I looked at her and she was already on to the next thing, babbling about names she liked for dogs. She had no idea what that word had just done to me. From then on, I was Dad. Birthday parties, scraped knees long, talks about boys and heartbreak. I was the one she came to when she couldn't sleep. I was there for every late night, school project, every graduation, every doctor's appointment. I was there. I was her father, not just in name, but in every moment that mattered. When she turned 19, she asked. We were in the kitchen, just the two of us. She'd come home from college for the weekend, and it was late, and I could tell something was on her mind. "Can I ask you something?" she said, eyes focused on the floor. Of course, I said. She looked up. "Do you know anything about my real dad?" That word real stunk, but I didn't show it. Penelope and I had agreed long ago we'd never lie to her, but we'd wait until she came to us. I nodded. "His name is Dylan. He lived in Santa Rosa when you were born. That's about all your mom ever told me. Did he ever try to contact me?" She. "No," I said. "Not once." She nodded, quiet for a long time. Thanks for telling me." A month later, she was gone, not physically. Her stuff still filled the corners of her bedroom. Her posters still lined the walls. Her old sneakers still sat by the back door like she might walk in any second. She still texted Penelope now and then. "Sure things. Made it back okay. Tell Mom I said hi." But with me, it was like someone flipped a switch. She found him, Dylan. He welcomed her like he'd been waiting all along. No hesitation, no explanation. For the years, he'd been absent. Just open arms, a big smile, and a story about redemption. And it worked. Photos started showing up on her Instagram. Her and Dylan on a trail somewhere, squinting into the sun, laughing like they'd shared a lifetime of memories. Dinner photos, plates of food that filtered golden hour. Lighting, his arms slung around her shoulder. They even had matching hats in one. That one got to me. What broke me, though, was the look on her face. That smile, the kind of smile that used to be mine. The one I got when I let her stay. Up past bedtime to finish a drawing, when I taped her solo at the middle school recital. When I brought home a pint of her favorite ice cream after a bad breakup, that smile didn't belong to me anymore. Apparently, he'd changed. Found sobriety, rebranded himself as the man he never was when it counted. Somehow that erased everything. Within 2 months, she stopped calling me. At first, I told myself she was just busy. College, new job, new people. But then my birthday passed, no text. Thanksgiving came. Penelope said she was spending it with some friends. Turned out those friends included Dylan and his wife. Christmas, nothing. No more texts, no holiday visits, just silence. On her 21st birthday, I mailed her a card. Just a simple one. No long message, no guilt or questions. Just happy birthday, Avery. Thinking of you, Dad. I stared at the mailbox for a long time before dropping it in. Something about it felt like throwing a paper boat into the ocean, hoping it'd float back. It didn't. A week later, it came back unopened. Well, handwriting still intact on the envelope, but the flap unbroken, like she'd taken one look and decided she'd already read everything inside. Penelope and I divorced the following year. It wasn't because of Avery, not directly, but the silence she imposed. It revealed things we'd both been ignoring. Conversations we used to postpone indefinitely were suddenly front and center, and we couldn't dodge them anymore. The grief I carried had become this invisible wall between us. Penelope told me she just needs time, Daniel. She's figuring herself out. She still loves you, she said one night, sitting across from me at the kitchen table, a mug of untouched tea in her hands. It doesn't feel like love, I replied, my voice low. It feels like abandonment. 6 years passed, 6 birthdays, 6 Christmases, 6 years of checking my email out of habit, then telling myself I wasn't waiting for anything. And then, last winter, I got an email. No subject line, just 5 words. I need to talk, please. That was it. No punctuation, no explanation. Just a quiet plea. I didn't reply, not out of anger, not to punish her. I just did not want it anymore. I built a life around the absence. Reopening, it felt like digging up a grave. 2 weeks later, she showed up at my front door. It was a Sunday morning, cold, the sky a pale, washed-out blue. I opened the door, and there she was, looking older, more worn around the edges. But in the curve of her eyes and the slope of her smile, I saw her. My girl's still there somewhere. I'm getting married, she said. Her voice was steadier than I expected. His name's Christopher. He's good to me. I nodded. Okay, good for you. She shifted her weight, then looked up at me. I want you to walk me down the aisle. The air between us froze, like everything in the world went still. Waiting. Why not your father? I asked. I kept my tone calm, even. Her eyes dropped to the floor. Dylan passed away in August. Heart attack. And there it was. Not love, not healing, not some epiphany. About everything I meant to her. Just absence. A vacancy that now needed filling. She needed a placeholder. So, now that your father is dead, you just want a placeholder, a replacement. No, I can't do that, I said evenly, carefully. I've warned you once already. I'm not going to reopen that. She looked stunned, not angry, just like she hadn't expected me to say no. She didn't argue. She didn't plead. She just nodded, stepped back, and left quietly. Weeks passed. I thought that was it. The last page in the book. Then Penelope called. I saw Avery, she said, her voice tight. She's a mess. There's something you need to know. What are you talking about? I asked, already feeling my chest tighten. You deserve the truth, she said. There was a pause, like she had to gather the nerve. Dylan wasn't Avery's biological father either. Penelope had lied. She told Dylan he was the father when she first contacted him, wanting, in her words, to give Avery something she thought was missing. A name, a story, a biological tether to some idea of origin. Dylan believed it, wanted to believe it. And Avery, so desperate for a sense of identity, never questioned it. No paternity test had ever been done. And the truth? Penelope never actually knew who the father was. She confessed that to Avery after Dylan died, sat her down, and told her that the man she'd grown so attached to, the man she'd pushed me aside for, had no blood tied to her at all. Nothing. It shattered her. The connection she thought she had, the photos, the memories, the laughter had been built on a story, one big fiction, and the man she had chosen over me wasn't a father. He was just a more compelling fantasy. Penelope called me not long after, voice soft, hesitant. She's been trying to make sense of it all, she said, asking you to walk her down the aisle. That was her first step toward fixing things. I didn't say anything right away. I just stood in my kitchen, phone pressed to my ear, staring at the fridge like it might offer answers. But here's the thing, I didn't need fixing. I hadn't disappeared. I hadn't abandoned her. I'd done everything right. Every scraped knee, every bedtime story, every school event and heartbreak, I showed up. I loved her unconditionally, and when the fantasy she traded all that for collapsed, I wasn't going to be her safety net just because the cushion she jumped to vanished beneath her. So I sat down and wrote her a letter, not out of cruelty, not to hurt her, but because clarity matters, because I needed her to understand. Avery, I raised you because I loved you, not because I had to. You chose to leave, and I respected that choice. I was hurt and angry, but today as I write this, I'm not angry. I am not hurt anymore. Truly, I'm not, but love, once abandoned, doesn't just sit on a shelf, waiting to be dusted off when it's convenient. I hope your wedding is beautiful. I hope your life is full and joyful. I am not going to be a backup plan, a placeholder. Daniel, I sent it the next morning. No expectation, no strings attached. No reply came. That was 6 months ago. And sometimes in the quiet moments, I wonder if I did the right thing. Some nights, I picture her in that white dress. I imagine her standing at the edge of the aisle, looking around, maybe just for a second, searching, wishing I was there, wondering if I might walk through the door late like I used to at her school plays when I get caught in traffic but never miss the final bow. But other times I go back to that afternoon in the car. She was 4, maybe 5. We were driving back from preschool, the windows down, her hair wild in the wind. She was babbling about wanting a dog, some little scruffy thing she'd seen at the park. And then out of nowhere, she said, "Please, Dad." It was the first time she didn't even notice what she'd said, just kept talking. But me, I had to pull over. Sat there with my hands on the steering wheel, heart pounding while she hummed in the back seat like nothing had changed. That moment was real. That was mine. And in a world where truth can be rewritten, where memories get edited and names reshuffled, to suit new narratives, I've learned to hold tight to what was real, even if it no longer belongs to me. About 3 weeks after I sent the letter, I got a voicemail. It was her, Avery. I didn't even know what to call her anymore. Her voice was soft, shaky, almost like she wasn't sure she had the right to speak. "I'm sorry, Dad," she said. "I know I don't have the right to call you that anymore, but I don't know what else to say. I was wrong. I was young and I thought I needed answers, but I didn't want you to be the wrong one. That wasn't fair. I was just so angry when I found out and I blamed the only person who had never lied to me." I listened to it 3 times, just sat there, phone pressed to my ear, trying to feel something clear, but I didn't know what to do with it. The voice felt like someone knocking on the door of a house I no longer lived in. It wasn't mine anymore. I had left, so I deleted the message. A few days later, I was out, running errands. Nothing special, just groceries, dry cleaning. I was crossing the street when I saw her. Avery coming out of a cafe. She looked thinner, tired, not unhappy exactly, just older, like the weight of the last few years had settled on her shoulders. She didn't see me. She was laughing with a friend, coffee in one hand, gesturing with the other, just like she used to do when she was trying to convince me to let her go to sleepovers. That wide, animated motion of someone who used to believe the world would bend if she just tried hard enough. I stood there for a minute, then I turned and walked the other way. But that night I couldn't sleep. It wasn't the words of her message I kept hearing. It was the sound, the weight behind her voice, the way she said, "Dad," like it still mattered, like it still fit. The next day, I called Penelope. I don't know why. Habit, maybe. We're just needing someone who'd been in the same story, even if we both read it differently. "Hey," I said. She didn't sound surprised. "I figured you'd call," she said. "How is she?" Penelope was quiet for a second. "She's lost," she admitted. And for once, her voice didn't have that usual sharpness, that edge of control she always held on to like armor. "But she's trying. She's been in therapy," she said. "She talks about you all the time." I didn't reply. What was I supposed to say? That I was proud of her, that it didn't matter anymore? Penelope sighed. "I know I ruined things," she said. "I know. What I did was unforgivable." But she didn't know better. I did. I didn't say anything. I just hung up. No goodbye. 3 days before the wedding, I got a letter. A real one. Handwritten. The kind no one sends anymore. The envelope had her name on the back in small, careful script. Avery. My daughter, in some ways still. I sat at the kitchen table for a while, just staring at it. My coffee had gone cold by the time I opened it. "I won't pretend I deserve anything from you. Not a walk down the aisle, not your blessing. But I need you to know that I've started to understand what you gave me. You didn't just raise me, you built me. Every good part of me comes from you." My chest tightened as I read those words. I could hear her voice in the ink, see the tremble in her pen strokes. I chased something I thought I needed, and I turned my back on the person who never asked for anything in return. That's what shame is, and I've carried it for 6 years. I didn't ask you to walk me down the aisle because I wanted a replacement. I asked because I want to be able to say, one day when I have kids, that I made things right with a man who showed me how to love and the man who raised me as his own flesh and blood. I know you probably won't come. I'll understand. But just in case you're nearby, first row. I'll seat, right side. It'll be empty just in case you change your mind. I folded the letter carefully and put it in the drawer beside my bed. I didn't read it again. I didn't have to. The day of the wedding, I didn't shave, didn't put on a suit, didn't iron a shirt or check my watch. Instead, I mowed the lawn, fixed the gate hinge that had been creaking every time the wind blew, something that had bothered me for weeks. By noon, I was sweating through my T-shirt, my hands covered in rust and dirt. The neighborhood was so quiet. No kids riding bikes, no barking dogs, just stillness. I sat on the porch with a glass of water and stared out at the street. Part of me, part of me, wanted to go to put on that suit to drive over there. To be the man she remembered, or maybe the man she was finally learning to see. Part of me wanted to forgive her, to let the past be past. But forgiveness isn't a reset button. It doesn't erase choices. It acknowledges them. I never made it to the church. I never sat in that empty seat. A week later, a small envelope arrived. No note, just a photo inside. Emerima, girl, standing in her wedding dress, her husband beside her. He looked kind, nervous, hopeful, and there on the other side of her, where I would have stood, was Penelope. She hadn't looked at the camera. Her smile was faint, but I could see it clear as day. She'd left that space in her heart unfilled. Behind the photo was a note, tucked gently into the envelope, easy to miss. Just 4 words, written in the same delicate script from her letter. You were always dead. I sat at the kitchen table for a long time after reading that. Didn't cry, didn't smile either, just sat there letting those words echo, not loud, just steady, like a heartbeat you forget is there until something reminds you it matters. Do I regret not going? Some days, yes. Some days I look at the drawer and wonder what it would have felt like to see her in that dress, to take her hand, walk her into that future. Other days, no. Other days I think about the ache of those silent years, about the long nights I stayed up hoping for a text, about the voicemail I deleted, about the way Penelope stood beside her in that photo, and how neither of them looked toward the camera. That kind of absence isn't filled by a ceremony. It's carried in quiet ways, for a long time. But I keep the letter in my nightstand now, and the photo that's on the fridge, not as some symbol of forgiveness, but as proof of love and its cost. A year passed and life went on. It was a Sunday afternoon, just past 2, the kind of day where the sun hangs gentle in the sky and the breeze carries. Nothing urgent. I was in the backyard trimming the hedge I'd meant to get to all week when I heard the knock. Hurried. Not timid, just steady. I wiped my hands on a rag, wondering if it was a neighbor or someone selling solar panels. Again. But when I opened the front door, time stilled. It was her, Avery. Her hair was pulled back, loose strands brushing her cheeks. She looked tired, bone-tired, but not lost. In her arms, wrapped in a soft blue blanket, was a baby. She didn't speak. Neither did I. For a moment, we just stood there, staring at each other, hearts loud in the silence. Then, without a word, she stepped forward and placed the baby in my arms. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. The little weight of him. It undid something in me. His eyes were closed, his tiny hand curled like a seashell. I looked down at him, then up at her, my lips parted, but nothing came out. And then it hit me all at once, like a dam breaking the years, the silence, the ache I'd buried so deep it became part of me. I crumpled right there on my front step, knees buckling as the sobs tore through my chest. I held her son, my grandson, against me and wept like a man who'd been underwater too long. Avery knelt beside me. She didn't speak. She just put her arms around me, her forehead against my shoulder, and there we stayed, father, daughter, and child wrapped in something that words couldn't name. Eventually, she whispered through her own tears, "His name is Daniel." I nodded, clutching the child a little closer. "He's perfect. I wanted the first man who ever truly loved me," she said softly, to hold. "The first person I've ever truly loved." My throat closed around every word I might have said. We sat on that porch for a long time. The past between us wasn't erased. It never could be, but it softened. The sharp edges dulled by the warmth of new life and the simple healing act of being together. I had lost my daughter once, but that day she came back. Because that's the thing about being a parent. You can raise someone, love them fiercely, give them everything you are, your time, your heart, your name, and still lose them. That's the quiet truth no one tells you. Parenthood doesn't come with guarantees. It gives, always gives, without asking for anything in return, without promise of being remembered the way you hope. And sometimes, if you're lucky, that love circles back, not as a grand gesture, not as a reward, but as a whisper, a quiet thank you from a distance. When I still hear when the world is quiet. Now for the second story, Grayson Smith. I'm 56 years old now. If you told me 8 years ago that I'd be writing this, not for sympathy, not for closure, but just to get it off my chest, I would have laughed in your face. Back then, I believed time healed everything. It doesn't. Sometimes all time does is show you who really cared. And sometimes that answer is no one. 8 years ago, I went through a brutal divorce with my wife, Lainey. We were married for over 20 years. She was 46 at the time. I was 48. We had a daughter. Together, Scarlett, who had just turned 20 when the divorce happened. When the split came, Scarlett didn't hesitate. She picked a side, and it wasn't mine. 8 years ago, I went through a brutal divorce with my wife, Lainey. We were married for over 20 years. She was 46 at the time. I was 48. We had a daughter. Together, Scarlett, who had just turned 20 when the divorce happened. It all unraveled fast. I found out Lainey was cheating on me through the oldest cliche in the book, a forgotten phone left face down on the kitchen counter. She was in the shower. The screen lit up a message preview, a name I didn't recognize. The words, "Last night was amazing. Same time. Next week." At first, I told myself it had to be a mistake, a scam text, a joke, something. But my gut already knew. I opened it. I read everything, weeks worth of messages, photos, plans, words she never even said to me in our prime. She wasn't just cheating. She was in love with him. I waited until she got out of the shower, sat at the kitchen table with the phone in front of me. She came down the stairs in her robe hair, wrapped in a towel, humming like everything was normal. I asked one question. Who was Mason? She froze. That was all the confirmation I needed. What followed wasn't begging or tears. It was worse. She justified it. She said things like, "Grayson, this is what people do now. Monogamy is outdated. We've outgrown those rules." She said, "I still love you. This doesn't mean I don't. I just needed something more. It's called an open marriage. Grayson, it's not the end of the world." Like I was supposed to nod and clap, like I should have thanked her for being modern while she ripped the soul out of everything we'd built. I stood up. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just looked her in the eye and said, "You want an open marriage? Fine, let's open it all the way up in court." I filed for divorce that week. Scarlett didn't take it well. I thought she'd at least ask, thought she'd want the full story before turning her back. But she didn't, not once. Lainey had already spun the tale. The overworked, emotionally unavailable husband, always angry, never present, leaving her lonely and neglected. I became the villain in a story I hadn't even gotten to speak in. Scarlett blocked my number, refused to meet. The last thing she ever said to me, her voice, cold, unrecognizable, was, "Mom said everything I need to know about you." And just like that, I was gone from her life. No explanation, no defense, just a door slammed shut. I tried everything, calling, messaging, even emailed her. Once. No reply, not a single word. One afternoon, I found myself standing outside her college dorm building. The sky was gray and the wind cold, but I didn't care. I just wanted to see her, even if only from a distance. Maybe say a word, maybe explain, maybe somehow break through the wall she'd built around herself. I waited for hours watching students come and go. Every time I thought I might catch a glimpse of Scarlett, my heart jumped. But each time, she didn't appear. Then finally she came out. I saw her instantly, the way she carried herself, head down, eyes fixed straight ahead, like she was trying to disappear. She spotted me too, but didn't even flinch, just walked right past without a word. "Scarlett," I called softly, barely daring to break the silence. She didn't stop. My voice broke. As I said, "Please, just listen to me for a minute," but she kept walking. Moments later, campus security officers approached. "Sir, you need to leave the premises," one of them said firmly. I swallowed hard. "She's my daughter. I'm not doing anything wrong. Ma'am has asked that you not be here. We're going to have to insist you leave." I nodded, my throat. I understand." As I turned away, the weight of it hit me loud and brutal. The message was clear. Final. Stay away. I was shattered. It wasn't just the divorce. It was the complete and sudden erasure of the one person I thought would at least ask why. Ask me. But she never did. No questions. No space from my side. Just silence. The truth. Lainey wove a perfect little story, a narrative where I was the absent, selfish husband, the guy, too wrapped up in his construction. Work to care. The man who was there, but not really there. And yeah, I worked long hours. I was the only one bringing in money. Lainey stayed home to raise Scarlett. I wanted that. I was proud of that. I loved being able to give them a life where they didn't have to worry about bills or rent or food on the table. I didn't mind the 14-hour days, the sore back, the calluses. It felt worth it. But when things got tense, when the fight started, when love started turning into quiet resentment, Lainey had the stage and I became the villain. No trial, no jury, just judgment. For 8 years, I've lived with that. Just swallowed it down and kept moving. I focused on work. I poured myself into it because it was the only place I still felt useful. I took care of my mother, too. She was slipping away, slowly, into Alzheimer's. There were days she didn't know my name. Other days, she'd squeeze my hand like she used to when I was a kid and say things like, "Don't give up on Scarlett." She loves you. She just doesn't know it. Right now, it was the kind of thing that broke me all over again. She passed a year ago. She was the only family I had left. After the funeral, I stood alone in that cemetery. The cold wind bit at my face, and for the first time it really hit me. I had no one, not a single hand on my shoulder, no family, no daughter. The silence around me felt heavier than the weight of the gravestones. Then, 2 months ago, my phone rang. I almost dropped it when I heard a hesitant female voice say, "Hi, Dad." It was Scarlett. I hadn't heard her voice in almost a decade. At first, I didn't even recognize it. So much older now, softer, more careful, like she was walking on eggshells with her own words. She said she'd seen a post online about her grandmother passing and wanted to check on me. I was stunned. "I didn't even know you still followed anything about my life," I said, my voice cracking. "I do," she whispered. I thanked her for calling, told her the truth, that I missed her more than words could say. There was a pause on the other. And then she said, "I like to meet to talk." We agreed on dinner at my house the following Saturday. I cleaned the place up like it was going to be appraised by royalty, scrubbed every surface, dusted every corner. I cooked her favorite dish, shrimp Alfredo, and even bought flowers. Not for her, really, but for the dining table, like it needed to look like I still had people in my life. When she showed up on time that evening, I opened the door, and time seemed to collapse. She looked so much like her mother, but there were flickers of the little girl I used to carry on my shoulders. I choked back tears and pulled her into a hug. Dinner went well. We talked like awkward friends, not like a father and daughter reunited after years apart, but I was grateful for the moment. I really was. Finally, I asked the question that had lived in my throat for nearly a decade. Why didn't you ever ask me for my side?" She looked down. I was scared. Mom said things, and I believed them. I didn't know better. I guess I didn't want to know better. She apologized, said she regretted everything, that she felt ashamed. I wanted to believe her. God, really did. But something fell off. Eventually, the conversation turned, and I asked what made her reach out now. That's when she said it. She had gotten engaged a few months ago. Money was tight. She had been hoping the lawyers would contact her about Grandma's inheritance. When they didn't, she decided to reach out. I tried not to show anything. I just nodded, keeping my face as neutral as I could. She looked nervous, biting her lip before she spoke. "I feel awful asking," she said quietly. "But Grandma told me years ago that I'd inherit everything as her only grandchild." I wanted to see if that was still true. She glanced at me with a nervous smile. "Anything you can give would help. The wedding's going to be big. I really need help." And there it was, the knife in my back, twisting slowly. I had dreamed of this moment, seeing her again, hugging her again, being a father again. But the moment I realized I was just a wallet in her eyes, something inside me broke. "I'm sorry, Scarlett," I said. "The inheritance went to me long ago. Grandma changed her will. I planned on using the money to start a small woodworking business." I took a breath and added out of my own pocket, "I'm willing to give you $5,000 for the wedding." Her face fell like a stone, sinking into a pond. "That's it?" she asked, voice flat. "That's all I can offer," I replied calmly. Her tone sharpened. "Grandma told me I'd inherit everything. I'm her only grandchild." I said, "Yes, you were the only grandchild, and the one who never visited her again after the divorce. She was your grandmother, yes, but you were also the one who cut us out of your life completely. You never responded after the divorce." Her eyes flashed with anger. "You're proving everything Mom ever said about you." I laughed bitterly. "And you're proving everything I feared was true about why you came back." She stood up, flustered. "This is unbelievable. I came here to reconnect and help plan my future. And you're being selfish." "No," I said firmly. "You came here for money, not relationship. You came here to see if there was a payday waiting for you." She stared at me, speechless. Then I said something that wiped the fake guilt from her face. "If you hadn't blocked me all those years ago, you would have received my texts. You would have known about your grandmother's illness. You could have seen her one last time. And maybe she would have kept her promise to you." She stood there shaken. "What texts?" she asked softly. "Unblock my number," I said. She did. I forwarded every single message. The ones where I begged her to talk to me, the ones where I updated her about her grandma's condition, the one where I invited her to say goodbye before the funeral. Silence. Then she whispered, "I didn't know you didn't want to know." We sat there in silence. Then I stood up. "I don't hate you, Scarlett, but I don't trust you either. And love without trust isn't love at all." She opened her mouth to speak, but I raised my hand. I spent 8 years missing you, mourning you, even though you were still alive. But I'm done mourning. I'm done waiting. And I'm done being a father to someone who only remembers me when there's money involved. She didn't say another word. She just turned and left. I stood there in my quiet house, once again alone, but finally at peace. 3 days after Scarlett stormed out, my phone rang. A number I hadn't seen in years flashed on the screen. Lainey. For a second, I thought it was a prank. I just stared at the screen like it was a ghost. I let it go to voicemail. She called again, the next morning, and then again that night. On the fourth call, I answered, not out of curiosity, but because I was done running. I was tired of letting them write the story while I stayed silent. Grayson, her voice was cautious, almost soft. Can we talk? I said nothing. I know I'm the last person you want to hear from. You're right, I said. There was silence on the other end. She took a breath. Scarlett came home upset. She said quietly. She told me everything. I almost hung up. I didn't want to relive it again. I didn't want to hear Lainey's voice twisting the truth one more time. But something in me said, hear her out. Finish it. She told me you offered her money, and she refused it. I snorted. That's not quite how it went. She paused. You're right. I know Scarlett. I know when she's lying. But that's not why I'm calling. Then why are you calling, Lainey? I want to apologize. That stopped me for a second. I couldn't say anything. Years too late, I finally said. Her voice cracked. I destroyed you. I told myself. It was justified that you were being selfish and didn't care about me. That if I painted you as the villain, it made it easier for Scarlett to stay with me. So you admitted I do. I was angry. I was bitter. I didn't want her to leave me. And I knew if she had a choice, if she heard her side, she might have. She would have, I said. I never would have turned her against you. I know, she whispered. I leaned back in my chair, staring out the kitchen window at the quiet backyard. The wind moved gently through the trees, the same way it had the night Scarlett came over. You know what the worst part was? I said after a long pause, my voice low and steady. It wasn't the lies. It wasn't even losing the house or half my savings. It was watching my own daughter erase me, as if I never mattered, like I didn't raise her. Like every bedtime story, every scraped knee, every Christmas morning meant nothing. Lainey's voice came quietly from the other end. I'm sorry, Grayson. I really am. I swallowed hard. To hell with your sorry. I should have felt vindicated, but instead I just felt tired. I begged her to see me for years, but you told her I was harassing her. You threatened me with lawyers. I know, she said, her voice cracking. That's the part one regret most. I weaponized her. I didn't think about what it would cost her long term. Or you. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath. Why are you really calling, Lainey? This can't just be guilt. There was a pause. Finally, she said, Scarlett still believes she deserves something. She thinks your mother promised it to her. She did. I replied sharply. Before the divorce, before Scarlett cut me off, before she ignored 8 years of messages and showed up with her hand out. Lainey hesitated. I know she hurt you. She's still your daughter, she said gently. No, I said calmly but firmly. She's your daughter. You raised her to just like the bitch you are. You raised her to believe I was a monster. You raised her greedy gold digger, just like you. And now you want me to fund her wedding. Lainey went quiet. I offered her money. I added, voice hardening, more than she deserved after everything. But it wasn't about fairness. It was about seeing if she had any part of that little girl left. She didn't. So that offer is now off the table. I don't want this to end like this, Lainey said softly. You'll regret it when you're older. I laughed, bitter and hollow. The only regret I have is that I married you and had a daughter with you. Scarlett asked me to try and talk to you, to tell you she's sorry. She said she was young, and then she stopped herself, like the words were too heavy to carry all at once. After a pause, she continued, I twisted everything. I am sorry. I replied quietly. Your sorry doesn't rebuild 8 years. Sorry doesn't wipe away silence. Sorry doesn't turn manipulation into love. You sorry does not remove the poison you filled in. Your daughter's mind. She's still your blood, Lainey said softly. I stood up and walked over to my mother's old china cabinet, the very one Scarlett used to hide behind during our games of hide and seek. I stared at it for a long moment, the memories swirling around me like ghosts. Yes, that is unfortunate. But you know what is more unfortunate, Lainey? I said slowly. I was willing to give, given her everything, not just money, but my time, my love, my forgiveness. I was waiting for her to be genuine in her words and her actions. But she is just like her mother. I saw it clearly. She came for the money, not me. She misses you, Grayson, Lainey said gently. No, I answered firmly. She misses what I can give her. A long silence followed. She's devastated, Lainey whispered. So be it, I replied, voice heavy with memory. Another pause. Then she said something I didn't expect. I don't want money for her. I just want to know, do you hate her? Yes, I hate the daughter you raised, I said honestly. The version I met last week. That woman, she doesn't deserve my affection. She does not love her lost father. She just loves what I represent. A lost opportunity, a financial solution, a name to write on a check. I sighed, the weight of it all pressing down. You guys erased me from your lives when it was convenient. This time I choose to stay. Erased. With that, I ended the call. Days later, a letter came in the mail. No return address, just my name. Handwritten. Inside was a photo of Scarlett when she was 5 years old, sitting on my shoulders, grinning wildly. Her pigtails flying in the wind. Attached with a short note. I don't know how to fix what I broke. Maybe I never can, but you were the best dad I could have asked for. And I'm sorry I didn't realize it sooner. No request for money. No mention of the wedding. Just that. I tore the photo and the letter, dropped it in garbage. I didn't call her, not out of anger, not out of spite, because I finally understood something important. Forgiveness doesn't mean reunion. Sometimes walking away is the only way to heal.
Thanks for listening. Share your opinion in comment section and also do like and subscribe to the channel.